Welcome everyone to another great episode of Scott Talk. Today I've got Mr. Mark McGee. He's a guitarist extraordinaire. He's played in bands ever since the 80s. He started off with a band called Overdrive. He played in Star Castle, Vicious Rumors. He played with Gregg Allman from the Allman Brothers, Stu Ham, great bass player. And now he's in a band called Luvplanet, and they've actually put out 6 records, and we're going to get into all this stuff. Mark, welcome to Scott Talk, brother. How you doing?
Good to see you, Scott. Thank you for having me. Boy, after
You
hearing all that, man, I'm tired. That was a lot of stuff, man. Wow. Get some sleep.
well, you are well deserving of a long intro, my friend. So, um, before we get started, if you're watching over on YouTube, if you could just please hit that subscribe button, it really helps out. It's free, means the world to me if you do it. And also, noticing our comments section is a little lacking. It's kind of a ghost town. So leave some comments. We got some great people on this channel, and I'm sure they'd like to hear from you. So with that in mind, let's get started. Mark, welcome again to the show. I see you got a great background there with a lot of guitars going on. And so you started playing guitar first at the age of 11. Is that right?
11 was when it was like really got serious. Recently, I found a photo of me with my mom on Christmas when I was 7, and I'm sitting there holding a plastic Partridge Family guitar. So I don't even remember having that. So I guess the interest was there before then, growing up, watching the music television shows like Hee Haw and, the
Yeah.
Jacksons and all that stuff. So Soul Train. So there was an interest, I think. I was the youngest of 3 boys, and my parents didn't have a lot of money, so like we were all sharing bikes and whatever. And I was into basketball. That was my thing. I was pretty good at basketball. And then one day my brothers took me across the street to the cool guy's house and played a whole bunch of different rock albums, like Zeppelin 2, Dark Side of the Moon, Montrose, turned me on to all this different rock and roll. And that was like a real eye opener. So my brother had a guitar, and I'd go into his room and take it and, make a bunch of noise. And then he'd catch me with it, take it back, or leave my guitar alone. And obviously that wasn't going to stop. So one day he just said, well, look, let me show you some chords, and don't break it, So I had a couple chords going, and I was into music. I liked music, but it was still pretty much basketball with a little guitar. And then I saw the album cover of Kiss Alive, and it was just that image where it was like, oh, I want to be in a band. That's cool. I mean, the guy's boots are silver, and everything's on, smoking, and that looked cool to me. So that was kind of a catapult moment as far as how to be in a band. And then from there, it just kind of escalated. I just kind of got just hooked on the guitar.
It's funny. I have an older brother too, and that's kind of the way I got started. Was I wanted to be like my brother. He had all the records. He was into the rock and roll, and he started playing guitar. So of course I started playing guitar, and I remember he was mad at me because you copy everything I do. But yeah,
It's supposed
interesting.
to be my thing.
Yeah, and that Kiss Alive album, man. Yeah, seeing that as a kid, I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
I wanted. Can I? My guy was Ace Frehley. I liked Ace Frehley, but
Yeah, I hadn't heard it. I just saw the picture, and that was game over.
yeah, that's all
I
you
wasn't
needed,
really,
right?
I wasn't really into comic books when I was, even though a lot of my buddies were. But when I saw that, I was like, that's my comic book.
Right.
Crazy people with crazy hair with guitars and silver boots. So I thought that's cool.
And so, like 4 years later, at the age of 15, you started the band Overdrive, right?
Yeah, from around the age of 10 or 11 to that time when I turned 15, I was probably had a few neighborhood friends that I would get together and jam with. some of them, you know, have done things. People like Eric Peterson from Testament, you know, we went to grade school together. And there's a handful of others. But by the time I was 15, me and my buddies from school, me and Mike Carsey, this other guitar player, we lived down the street from each other. We used to sit down with our fake Les Pauls and learn air songs, and you know, we kind of schooled ourselves. But we were never a band that wanted to do other people's songs. So even when we first started, trying to write songs. And by the time, you know, 8 months, 9 months in, we got our first gig. And at that time, nobody was singing. And then we auditioned singer, and nobody was really that good. And then they told me, well, you were telling everybody how to sing it, so why don't you just sing? So it kind of pushed me into singing. And then we started doing legitimate gigs, you know, in the San Francisco club scene. And at that time, there was a great scene happening. I mean, you could go to variety row nightclubs 7 nights a week and hear, you know, 3 or 4 original bands, unknown, unsigned bands, you know, at a music venue, and it was packed. I mean, people loved going and experiencing something they didn't know. And so we got a lot of opportunities. We played venues run by Bill Graham, like Wolfgang's and the old Waldorf, which are now kind of legendary. Yeah, we did shows with Blue Oyster Cult, Metallica, you know, Quiet Riot, Y&T, some of those bands. And we were 16, 17. There's a movie that came out last year called Bay Area Godfathers, and it's all about the 80s rock metal scene in the Bay Area. And so I talk a little bit about it in there. And part 2 is coming out soon, so that's a cool thing to check out. But yeah, Overdrive had a great run. We were doing gigs for 3 or so years, and then you know, things change and you go your own way and you move forward. But it was a great platform to get your feet wet. And you know, all the places we were playing had legitimate stage and lighting. You could go on stage, you could plan a show, you could bring props. And back then, you could have unsafe pyros and, you know, all sorts of stuff going on. So kind of got to live your dream in a small, like, you know, adolescent way. And but the music was serious, you know. We held our own musically. A lot of really good bands in the area at the time.
So what at that age of, you know, 16 and 17, like you're talking about, playing with bands like Blue Oyster Cult and Rat and Y&T, you got to actually, you know, talk with those guys? Did you get to talk shop at all with them backstage and all that? Or?
Yeah, Blue Oyster Cult, you know, I've done a few shows with them over the years. They're not super outgoing, but with most bands, yeah, you know, Quiet Riot, those guys were cool, you know. And Metallica, like when they showed up, they were from LA. They were at the same age we were, and you know, they were just really feisty, beer slugging, cocky little kids. And yeah, you know, people really weren't that standoffish, and the dressing rooms were usually shared back then, so it was pretty cool. You learned early on to not like be a fanboy, and you know, you wanted to seem like, you know, you were one of them, so you try to be professional about it. But I also believe, you know, if you really admire somebody or are inspired by their art, go and thank them, you know.
Yeah.
In a classy way, very quickly, and then, you know, let them have their time, because I think they appreciate it that way the best, you know.
Yeah, I don't want to get creepy on them, I guess, you know.
Right.
I had Joe Bouchard on my podcast here from Blue Oyster Cult, and he was just a really, really nice, sweet guy. It was really fun having him on the show.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'll work my way up to Rat and Metallica guys one of these days. But
well, you know, in Vicious Rumors, we did a show with Blue Oyster Cult, and that's where I really had a chance to interact with Bob and Eric Blumen. They just weren't as friendly as I hoped they'd be. But, you know, I don't know them. So, but, you know, I think maybe part of that was that they're asked often, what does it feel like to be one of the godfathers of heavy metal? And they don't really think of it that way. So they're not really into the metal thing. So You know, Vicious Rumors was extremely, you know, energetic and a little more heavy than what they were doing. So they probably would have rather had somebody else open the show, you know.
Right,
But
right.
it's all good. It's all good in the hood, as they say.
So back in like 1985, 1986, you joined the band Starcastle for a while.
I did. Yeah. I was playing now after Overdrive. I kind of just wasn't in a band for almost a year, and I just wrote a bunch of songs. And then I met this guy Devin Lacey, who's a bass player songwriter. We wrote a few songs together, and we started this band called Now, which was kind of like a hard rock with a little more progressive rock. You know, we were listening to a lot of Police and Rush and a little Loudness and some of those types of more heavy proggy, you know,
Yeah,
riffy
yeah.
bands. And we did that for a year and a half, and that was cool. And then we ended up doing some shows with Starcastle. And it's funny because when I first got on the show with Starcastle, I remember thinking, why do I know that name, you know? And when I was a kid, I would catch the 51 bus from Alameda, California to Berkeley. And in Berkeley at the time, they had near the campus, they had all these record stores, poster shops. It was just a really cool, like, it's kind of like the Hay Street of Berkeley. And I realized one of the first times I was there, I was flipping through vinyl, and I remember seeing that Starcastle album cover. And then I'm like, that's bizarre. Like, why would I remember that? You know, that's like I was 13 maybe when that happened. So here we are playing with them, and at the time I was feeling like, you know, I like my, but I kind of wish that musically they were a little more, you know, skilled than they were, and they were great. Don't get me wrong, but I was looking for something a little higher level to push me to see what I had. That's what I was really curious about. How much can I be pushed? How much can I keep up? What's inside me that I haven't gotten out? So I'm watching them and I'm thinking, man, that's a great rhythm section right there. I really like the way they're playing, you know, a little more experimental, a little less rock and roll. And what I didn't know was that they were thinking the same thing about me. They were having the same feelings about their guitar player or whatever. So we did a couple gigs, and after one of the gigs, Gary Strader, the bass player, said, really nonchalant, he was just like, so yeah, you want to join our band? And I was just like, yeah, okay. And it was that, you know, we didn't play together other than seeing each other play. And Gary, a phenomenal talent, really special human, super smart. And you know, I was 19 and he was 33, I think. And so I was a young kid in the band, but again, it was a short-lived thing. We worked together for 2 years. We did a bunch of recordings, but never released anything officially. Personal life stuff got in the way. And right when that was starting to happen, I bumped into Dave Starr, who was an old friend from the metal scene. And he's like, hey man, Vicious Rumors is looking for a guitar player. Like, oh, this is bizarre, you know? So it's funny because I never, I'm lucky in that I was never fired from band. So I didn't realize that until maybe a couple months ago. We were talking about, you know, the trials and tribulations of the family band situation and all the drama that can go with it. And I realized that I was lucky to have never been fired. But I had a lot of invitations, which was nice. You know, either I had something to offer or they were out of their minds. But I, you know, there's something to be said for those random moments. You know, you pizza joint, and here's this guy Dave who you knew, haven't seen in 3 or 4 years, and they just happen to be looking for a guitar player right during the time that there's stuff going on in my situation. So, but Starcastle was super special time, and Gary died in 2004 from cancer, unfortunately. But man,
Sorry
powerhouse,
for your loss.
powerhouse bass player, singer, songwriter, and he had the IQ of genius, and he was like one of the funniest guys ever. So, God bless Gary Strader.
Yeah.
And from that, I met Scott McKenzie, who became the drummer for Luvplanet for the first, for 3 or 4 minutes.
Oh, great.
No, no mistakes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man. So there's a reason you're probably never fired from a band. I've seen you play and you're absolutely outstanding. Would you you got your guitar in your hand there. Would you mind playing a little bit for us?
Sure.
Wow. Wow, man. Uh,
It's all
how,
recorded.
how
Okay, now I'm
like
gonna play it backwards.
yeah. That would be amazing.
It's fun, you know. It's still fun.
Now, how does for me, people like me, and probably so many other guitarists out there that you know we that try to be as good as you, right? And so many of us hit a bump or a wall, and we can't get past it. Um, how does how does someone? I mean, how do you get to the level of talent that you have? Was it just like nonstop practice when you were young for hours a day? I always wondered with someone with of your caliber, like how does that even
You know,
happen?
everybody's different. Some people are born with natural skills, a natural feel for a stringed instrument or whatever. So you have that part of the equation. I used to read, people say, well, you got to practice 8 hours a day every single day, and that just seemed too much to me. But there was a period in my late teens where I really drilled down for about a year. It was probably the only period of my life where I was playing like a minimum 5 hours a day every single day. So I did make a lot of headway with detail and specific type of maneuvering and techniques. But over the years, the thing that's always driven me is the song. A great song, um, with everything mattering. I mean, not a bass line that just blends in, but like every bass note really making a difference, having some kind of melody in there. And my buddies and I used to listen to records and analyze it and break it down. Listen to the keyboard right there. So I always like
Yeah,
the compositional thing, the interplay.
yeah,
Um, so the idea of a collective presenting something powerful always what appealed to me more than a shredding guitar player. I mean, I can appreciate anybody who can be a virtuoso on an instrument, but really what inspires me is nowadays, especially as a singer, a
yeah,
great voice. That's what makes me throw my money down and buy new music, is that the singer just gets in there and does something. I think the voice is a deeper kind of it penetrates in a deep because the instrument is flesh and blood, so there's a direct energy thing coming out of the person. But yeah, practice helps, but we have to have fun. One thing I like to express to people sometimes, when you're working on something, um, think about your goal, visualize, but once you dive in to play it, you got to just find joy in the moments that didn't go your way, you know, because there's nothing that can throw a musician off the tracks than something that wasn't planned, or, you know, I don't even like to say wrong note, but, you know, something isn't what you expected. If you can own those moments and still fun in those, then really you got to make, because then playing the instrument is always fun. And that's fun. If you're having fun, then the energy stays light. Um, we don't get all worked up and stressed out about it. Next time you do it is the next time to get it right, you know. And the other thing is, you know, I always think of Mick Jagger, it's only rock and roll, you know.
Yeah.
To me, that line sums it up, because, you know, you think about how many bands and musicians there are, and there's so many great ones, you know, and there's so many talented players that we've never, you know.
Yeah.
And so stay humble, stay grateful, play what sounds good to you, play the music that you like and believe in. Don't play what's popular, or don't play what your buddy thinks is cool, you know. Be willing to be ridiculed for what you're doing, you know, if because, you know, I'm not a trend follower. On the other hand, I'm a sucker for a great pop song, you know. So if something's really popular, um, but I happen to love it, I proudly love it, you know. Um, but you gotta, you know, just tune into what you like and let that be your GPS. So,
Yeah.
you know, when I was touring with Gregg, people would say, "Well, what else have you done?" You know, and I'd be like, "Well, I was playing metal before this," you know, and they would like scratch their head and like, "What?" They'd look at me funny. They just didn't understand. Like, how could that be? You know, and I get it, but it's really not that different. You know, there's only 12 notes in music, so, you know, the flat five in metal is what makes it sound evil. But in blues, that's the note that has extra attitude. So it's the same energy. It's all about energy, right? So if you can tune into what notes generate certain emotions, then that's the best way to know music, because then you have direct connection to the listener. You know, we can think about the math all day long, but what's a musician want to do? They want to make the listener feel something. So if you know which notes make them feel this or that, then you got them, right? You can be the puppet master.
Great.
But yeah, you know, be happy with your skills, you know, be easy on yourself, and just keep having fun and be open, you know.
Yeah. Thanks for that advice. I'm sure a lot of people will be greatly helped by that. You know, I I gave up trying to be a guitar god a long time ago. I'm a bass player now. So,
Cool.
um, but you know, anyone can just go on YouTube and watch like some 8, 9 year old kid, you know, blow them out of the water. You know, you can find them if you want. You know, there's so, like you're saying, there's so many talented people everywhere, and you can't compare yourself to that, or you'll go nuts. You know.
No, no, because there is no perfect, there is no best.
Yeah.
Um, Music is, you know, to the listener, they decide, you know. Um,
Right.
so if you know, it's like songwriting, you know, people don't write songs because they're scared that when they're done, they actually have to play it for somebody, you know. So what do? They start a tribute band, you know, and that's fine. It's not my
Yeah.
thing, but I wish there was less people doing that. You know, if Queen was a tribute band, we wouldn't have had Queen, you know. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, you gotta follow your heart and keep it true. That's the main thing, you know. I mean, people think when you do metal and you leave and do something else, oh, he doesn't like metal anymore, you know. I get fan mail all the time from people, and they always sign it, "Stay metal," you know, and that's cool. They're very loyal. It's a great fan base. But, you know, as a musician, you know, I like variety, you know. So why would
Yeah.
I want to limit myself as far as what I play? Um, and people who don't know me, who only know me from Vicious Rumors or Gray, you know, they didn't know me growing up. So, you know, I'm a child of the 70s. So the music that initially inspired me the most was 70s rock, you know. So,
Yeah.
and in 70s, the rock and roll was like, you know, you had Jethro Tull, you had flutes and mandolins, you had Zeppelin, you had a lot of variety. So that's always been my banner, is to be in a rock and roll group that's not afraid to do blues or country or rock or psychedelic or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what Luvplanet is. We just package it in focused songs with lots of vocals. That's our thing. But it's totally true to my heart, you know, what we're doing. So I
Yeah.
love doing it. You know, we got a group of people that just still get the joy out of the music. You know, we do it for us first, you know, but people like it when you're into it, you know. The audience can tell when you're just phoning it in. So,
Yeah.
but
And
you know, bass players, you know, we need more bass. So good for you. And bass is, you know, the most, in some ways, the most important part of every band. People
I
always say, you know a good band by their drummer, and there's some truth to that. But you know, I'm sure you've seen a band where the bass amp blows up, and all of a sudden the whole warmth and sound of the band is gone, and it's just
yeah.
cymbals and guitars. You know,
Yeah.
so the bass is the cake. Everything else is icing. You know, so.
Well, I
But it's a
have to.
singer. That's what gets me.
Yeah. It starts with the drummer. You got to have the solid drummer that can keep the time, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, bass is important and guitar, but yeah, if you don't have a good singer, I'm not going to listen. I don't care how good the band is, you know? So got to
Yeah.
have a good singer.
Oh, and singers, you know, singers, it's really just how the voice sounds. It doesn't matter if they're trained or not, because to the
Right.
listener, they either like the voice or they don't. They don't
Yeah.
care if they're trained. I don't care. You know, I mean, I totally love Joan Jett, love her
Yeah.
voice, love her energy. You know, but I also totally love Sarah Brightman. So you know, um,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just
Like,
me.
you know, like someone
uh,
like Rod Stewart, you know, um,
classic. Yeah.
classic voice, right? Um, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know if he was trained or not. But it's just that voice is
Yeah. Who
just,
cares? You know,
it's just fantastic. So,
absolutely.
Vicious Rumors, get kind of circling back a little bit here. Touring in that band, who are some of the people that, some of your favorite bands to tour with and people that you met along the way, other musicians and stuff?
You know, we did a lot of in America. We really just toured large clubs. We never really got to had bigger opportunities here in the States, unfortunately. But so we were often the headliners in the American dates. Um, but in Europe, you know, we did a lot of festivals in some theaters and larger venues, and we did tours with Paul Di'Anno from Iron Maiden. That was a fun tour. We shared a double-decker tour bus together for 8 weeks all through Europe,
Oh,
and
nice.
that was a real trip. Spending time with him, yeah. What a fun guy.
Probably
And
some good
we would
stories in there somewhere.
oh yeah, we were on a tour with Metal Church and Paul Di'Anno and Vicious Rumors, and Riot was also supposed to be on the tour, but like a week before the tour, they couldn't do it for some reason. So we had a band from England jump on. But that tour was fun because Di'Anno and Vicious Rumors would take turns who was second and third on the bill, because it
Okay.
was Metal Church's tour, and then they added us. And so every night Di'Anno would run into our dressing room, and he would either say, "Take that, motherfuckers," or he would say, "Oh man, you're gonna kick my ass," you know. So he kept it real. That was a lot of fun. We toured with Sabotage from Florida in '91. Did a long European tour with them. That was a really good bill. We were both on Atlantic Records. Our management had formerly managed them, and Chris Oliva, the guitarist, and I really kind of connected and developed a strong bond on that tour. We had a lot of the festivals we did. You know, we'd done shows with Zakk Wylde or Danzig, you know, Megadeth, you know, all sorts of bands like that. You know, we were kind of we weren't light metal and we weren't thrash metal, so we were kind of like a faster Judas Priest, I guess you could say. So they consider us classic metal, you know, power metal. But yeah, you know, we did a lot of dates, and it was a really, we worked really hard before we got signed to Atlantic Records. I joined after their first record, and then came in and completed Digital Dictator, which was the band's second album for Shrapnel Records. And that was the first album with myself and Carl Albert, our singer. And that's the album that really made it kind of break for the band. The European market really embraced the record, flew us over to play the Marquee Club in London,
Wow.
and a few other shows. And that's how it all started. That was in '88. And then from then on, every year we were there for, months touring. And, but then, we went, the Shrapnel contract was completed. We went another 2 years just writing and doing shows. And then our management kind of started getting some of these people from Atlanta to show up. And one night we were opening for Paul Stanley of Kiss. And that was the night that we walked off stage and the Atlantic Records rep said, "Okay, boys, we're going to do this." And he shook our hands. And so like we had the verbal,
wow.
the handshake on the deal, so that was like a huge night for us. And then, we were locked into a 7-record deal with Atlantic, and we had done 3. We did 2 studios and a live in Japan. And then right around that time, Nirvana had blown up, and the whole grunge thing had taken over. And so many, many big labels decided that the type of act they wanted to be signing was going to be grunge. And so hundreds of bands that you've heard of, including us, ended up being collateral damage and getting, losing our contract. Because when you get a record deal with a major label like that, the way it's written is, each record is listed as an option, right? Okay. That one word allows them to get out. So even though you have the money laid out for every record in the deal, you're well aware that you got to kick ass and you got to do well. Going, so but had the grunge wave not happened, we probably would have at least done, the next 2 or 3 records of our deal, because the momentum was in our favor. But things changed really quick in the music biz, so. But it was a great time, and we were able to make 4 studio records together, a couple live records, and people really are fond of those records. They still really matter to the metal community, that period of the band, and it's nice. They don't let me forget it, and I appreciate it, so.
Yeah, grunge killed so many bands, and when it first came out, I was I was into the more showier, glammier bands, and I resisted grunge as long as I could, but I came around to it, and I love it now, of course. But at the time,
I mean, I'll be honest. We were in Dusseldorf, Germany, sound checking, and I remember the first time that the sound people used "Smell Like Teen Spirit" as the song to check the PA with, and I remember hearing it and just loving it. First time I heard it, I loved it. I was like, "This is awesome." Everybody else in the band was like, "This sucks." I was like, "No, this is cool." The time we got home from that tour, man, it was huge in America. I had no idea it had blown up like that, and that was kind of a drag, because I started seeing what was going to be happening. But a good song is a good song,
Yeah.
The only thing I wasn't crazy about the grunge thing is that it made dressing up and trying to look good. It made that become passé, at least for a little while. And same thing with a guitarist being able to take a solo. It became uncool, as everybody knows. But now it's kind of doesn't matter anymore again. But there were some good things that came out of that. Alice in Chains was cool, and Soundgarden was cool. And, I guess Stone Temple was okay. But I didn't follow it or get into it too much. But those 3 bands I liked, because to me they were just influenced by the same stuff I grew up on.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
So.
that's the part a lot of people don't kind of get is grunge was influenced by that 70s stuff, So it's just coming back around to what was popular before,
Sure.
And the hair metal, for lack of a better term, it was starting to get that whole market was oversaturated with, you know, and it started to kind of become how big can your hair get, you know, and more the
Right.
look was kind of more important than the music and the, you know, the partying and all that. So, you know, when
Well,
grunge
you
came
know,
out,
sometimes the one who's hosting the party, while it might be a great party, can you know can be the guilty party, because like MTV, Vicious Rumors getting on MTV was a huge thing. We threw a big party. We got word that we were going to be debuting on MTV for Don't Wait for Me, that video, and we threw a big after party after one of our shows, and we had like 50 people there, and it came on, and I think Steve Vai announced it or somebody, but it was really a big moment, and but MTV also became the reason that the people that didn't like metal, because they chose certain types of groups to present to everybody, the Poisons and the Motley Crues and the, whatever
yeah,
it was. And, to a band like Vicious Rumors, like we weren't bagging on anybody, but, those were definitely not the types of bands we wanted to have mass exposure. I would have rather people got turned on to or old Scorps, or classic metal, metal that had talent, that had some guts to it. I mean, those bands had talent, but I mean something a little deeper than that, a little
right,
less dressed up, you know. But it is what it is. Some of those bands were really talented, like Enough's Enough. I mean, those guys were great. They wrote great songs, and they still write great songs. So,
yeah,
Winger, who got the bad rap because of the Beavis and Butthead shirt, you know, musicianship wise, those guys crushed a lot of those bands,
yeah,
So, but yeah, to some degree, we even if we're a part of it, we're still watching it all happen. So what can you do?
yeah. So you mentioned Enough's Enough. I'm sure you love Donnie V's voice, huh?
I just dig their whole thing. I'm a big Beatle fan. I'm a big Cheap Trick fan,
Yeah,
and that's what I get when I hear them. And
yeah,
but I like him because it's real. It's who they are, doing what they love. And I also had an opportunity to hang out with them. Vicious Rumors was working on one of our records at Fantasy Studios in Berkeley, and Enough's Enough happened to be down the hall mixing one of their records. And so, we would hang out on the breaks, and they were super cool, super nice
yeah,
guys. And I like the fact that bands that fall out of favor or don't have the spotlight going on stick it out and keep releasing records. That says it all to me.
yeah,
I have
yeah. I
buddies
could,
that say, I used to have the dream when I was young and being a professional musician and making it big or whatever. It's like, I don't know, man. I got married, I got the house came, and I just decided, I'm just going to do it for fun, or I hung it up or whatever. And I get that, as long as it's your choice and you're doing what is genuinely cool with you in your heart, then it's for nobody else to judge. But some musicians I know, they thought, well, I'm never gonna. They didn't believe that they had a shot or whatever. They thought it's the odds are against me. Um, but I always said, look, you're talented. You write great songs or whatever. Just keep playing music at home, make recordings, release albums. Why
yeah,
why not do that? You should do it for the love of it first and foremost anyway.
yeah,
So yeah, you got to make the art, because what you do is what's real, not what people see. It's not our success isn't based on what other people see. you know if we rated ourselves and measured ourselves on what other people see or think of us, then that's no way to live. What you love and feel successful in what you do, and that's what satisfies the heart. You know what I mean?
yeah. And that's gonna lead me into your new band, Luvplanet, because that's exactly what you guys are doing with this band. Playing what you feel, playing what you want, not caring about, what anyone else thinks, and it's working for you, man. Um, 6 albums you guys have done, right? Starting back in 2003 was the first one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
I know we should have done more by now. Um, but we're our own record label, so it's all self-funded, and but it's been totally worth it. And Nicole and I have a really special chemistry musically, and there was a place in San Rafael, Marin County, called SRS Studios, and they had a big sound stage there. They also rented rooms to other musicians, and at the time, people like Vernon, the guitarist for Mariah Carey, had a room there. Satriani had a room there. Todd Rundgren, a lot of Bay Area artists were rehearsing and had little studios there. But they had this one big soundstage room. And when Gregg would go on tour, because Gregg was living here in the Bay Area, we would go to this studio and we would rent the soundstage room for 3 or 4 days and just rehearse the show before flying out to start the tour. And so I knew the studio manager. And one day he called me for a recording session. So I show up at the studio, and there's a couch full of women in the recording room, and I'm thinking, okay, one of these ladies must be Nicole, the songwriter, and but none of them said a word to me. So I did this session. It went well. A few weeks go by, I get a call. Hey, Nicole's down here. Do you want to come down and do a little jamming? And I'm like, okay, sure. And I get down there, and there's Stu Hamm is there as well, and Jeff Campitelli, the rhythm section for Satriani. And so that ended up just being like, kind of threw everybody together, to get he was an old friend of Nicole. So we threw everybody together to kind of see if we'd be into working with Nicole to, basically create band versions of her songs, right? Because she had a lot of songs. So that's what we did for the first year in '99. And then we eventually, the studio, he lost the studio. Everybody moved out of the studio. Metallica bought the building, so that's still their studio. All those movies they filmed, like Some Kind of Monster and all that, it's all filmed in our old kitchen, where we used to rehearse. So, but at that point, Satch went on the road, and Stu and Jeff were out of town for months and months, and so Nicole and I just kind of kept, and then we got our first record recorded in 2003, and Stu and Jeff came back and did the record. So our first record has Stu Hamm and Jeff, and they're like family to us, and it was a special time. What I liked about the time was that I didn't know any of these people, and none of these people knew anybody that I knew. Like, none of my longest friends or anybody in my circle knew anything about this new group of people. It was really fresh in that way.
No preconceptions.
But Nicole and I definitely, yeah. And Nicole and I had a nice connection. And it was all about the music. And so, yeah, it's been going ever since. And we eventually brought in Tommy Sisko on bass and Scott McKenzie on drums to do our second record, State of Mind. And then that was the band for State of Mind, Lucky One, and Lovolution. And then since then, we've switched drummers, and we have Michael Amos and we have Steven Anderson on keyboards. So our newest 6th album is a double 20-song album.
Yeah.
And, like you and I, growing up when we did, some of the iconic bands are famous for their double studio records they did. And it was always something I thought would be cool to do. And so Something Good is kind of that record, it kind of goes all over the place, from pop to rock to country to psychedelic.
Okay. Yeah. Double album. 20 songs. That's a lot.
Every time we do a record, we've got a whole record's worth of material or more that didn't go on it.
Okay.
Nicole and I joke about, we've written more songs that we forgot than we actually have recorded. But truth is, we haven't forgotten them. But we write a lot, and we're blessed to have a prolific thing together. And we're either writing separately or we're writing collaboratively. And most of the time, it's a collaboration in some way. Sometimes I'll have a riff, and she'll come up with a melody. Sometimes she has a melody and riff, and I'll help her finish it. Sometimes I'll write the words and she'll write the music, or vice versa. So we have an interesting thing. And our main thing has always been, the only rule is that there's no rules.
Okay.
musically.
Like Fight
That's the
Club,
only
right?
rule. Yeah,
The
that we
only rule
don't
of Fight
decide
Club.
ahead of time. Yeah, we don't decide, you know what I mean? Anything
Right.
goes, you know? If an idea comes and it's kind of country, then we finish it and we make it a great song no matter what style it wants to be. Because we all like all these different styles of music, so we're open to it. We don't want to be locked into one thing.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, you don't want to paint yourself in a corner, right? And
No, there's too
get
many.
stuck.
It's much fun to play, heavy, and then to play the country. I mean, it's all really fun. So,
Yeah.
and the goal is to express yourself, and to connect, but we don't do it on purpose. We don't do any one thing on purpose. The only thing that's predetermined is that any type of song is welcome. That's
Very,
all.
very cool. So the album came out in 2020, Something Good, the double album.
Yeah, so we were working on it. Started working on it at the end of 2019, and around around spring, it was just about mixed, and then the COVID thing, of course,
Right.
and we're like, well, from a business point of view, like, do we release a new album when everything's on lockdown? But it wasn't much thinking going on. We realized, no, we need to release this because people need it. People need
Yeah.
it. The album's called Something Good. That was the name of the record to begin with. And how ironic that we were planning to release an album with the title track being called Something Good, and then something really bad happens to happen. So we just decided, no, let's wait till let's pick a symbolic date. So we picked the first day of summer to release it, kind of trying to tap into the stars, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, the response has been great. Again, we have so much music that to wait a whole year to put that record out.
Yeah.
We already know what songs we want to put on the next record by the time we're done with the record we're working on. And of course, by the time the next record comes, all those songs we thought we wanted to be on the record are already on the back of the heap. So that's just the way we're always chasing that way. Sometimes I wish we could be like some of the bands in the 70s where they put a new record out every 8 months.
Yeah.
It was great period. But so yeah, Something Good double album came out we still managed to do some shows here in the Bay Area. There was outside venues were still allowing music, so we still did some shows, and we didn't let the thing stop us from getting out and playing on music, because somebody had to be showing people that fear can't control you. So that was kind of our thing, and we're all, knock on wood, healthy. So
Great.
and then Nicole had this idea for a song that she was working on, and I helped her finish it, called "The Day They Closed the World."
I was
And it
just
was
going to
kind
bring
of,
that up. Yeah, that's. I'm sorry.
song
Yeah,
of
I
the
was just.
time.
Yeah, go ahead and explain what that song's about. Yeah.
We had a few ideas going on. I was working on something called Lockdown, and she had this "The Day the World" idea, and so we had kind of finished them, and she was like, we need to release this song like right now, and I'm like, okay, well, just record it at home. We'll just do it acoustic, and we'll make it, we'll assemble a video, and we'll not even put ourselves in the video, because to release a song that's directly connected to a society issue like that was going on, to have yourself in the video just seemed like, kind of not like a classy thing to do. So our bass player, who does a lot of aerial drone stuff, he had taken some footage he had taken, and then we found some public footage that we were given permission to use, and we assembled this video, kind of just with imagery, kind of showing everybody, making everybody think about what's important with the earth, and So, but it's a special song, and yeah, I'm really glad we did it, and the response has been really good.
Yeah,
I
really
think
great song, and the video was great. All the the nature and the birds flying around, and just the overall feel
we
was
tried to
very relaxing, and you know,
we tried to do the positive spin when the words were being created. And I think Nicole already thought the same thing, but I had said to her, we need to make sure that we don't say the word mask in the song. We don't say the word virus in the song.
right,
Let's keep all those negative words out of the picture. Let's keep it on the what life has always been, what it will be. Again, there's no need to go there. It's already in our face enough, and that's a whole
yeah,
nother topic which we don't have to get into. But
yeah.
so yeah, it's a cool song, and I'm glad we did it.
So, with some restrictions starting to lift a little bit, weather probably not a factor where you're at, but weather starting to get warmer, hopefully in a month or two across the nation here in America. What do you think about live shows for later in this year? Do you think they're going to get a little bit more back to normal, or is it
Well,
just
I hope
anybody's guess?
so. But I do think it's going to return. Um, it's sad, how much it's crushed the entertainment industry. People that
Yeah.
are in production, caterers, all those types of things. It's massive what it's done. I do think it's going to come back,
Yep.
but we have a show date coming up here in a few weeks, so it's starting to open up here a little bit here in Northern California. Um, so
Good.
yeah, let's hope that it continues to open. I'm seeing some big artists posting, you know, full-on tour schedules starting in summer. So let's see if those things come to fruition. We definitely are planning on it. You know,
Yeah, that'll be
so
great. Everyone needs that. I've been saying it in every interview. We all need live music and just be around people,
yeah,
have fun, dance, have a drink, you know.
human, human connection, man. That's what people are about, man.
Yeah, and
I mean, some
and
people
music
can't.
is about music is about connection as well. And if you're not getting the connection, and you can still get it through the music, but to get the live connection as well that's the whole
Yeah,
slice of the pie there. That's better than throwing on an
it
album,
is
right? So um
that exchange energy.
yeah. Well, Mark, it's been great
Yeah,
having you on the show, man. I'm gonna leave your website for Love Planet in the description, and everyone, that's luvplanet.com, actually .net, and I will put that in the description.
cool,
Mark,
man.
come back anytime, man. Best of luck with you and Love Planet in the year 2021, and
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
my pleasure having you on. You want to send us off with another killer riff?
Sure, man.
Mind blown. Mind blown. That's
Hello, Cleveland. Yes,
man, you are fantastic, man. Thank you so much again.
my
And
pleasure.
keep in touch. We'll talk soon, Mark, okay?
You too. Keep it real in the Windy City, brother.
You got it, man.